So what does a successful business story look like? 1, it's got to be purposeful. 2, it's got to be backed up by hard data. And 3, it's got to be authentic, so it can reach out and engage its audience emotionally to cut through the white noise.
Most business people just go in on hard data. Hard data is really difficult to understand, remember, retail. Nobody goes, oh my God, that hard data gave me a shiver. Yeah? Like they probably can't remember that. So if you've got good hard data and you think of a compelling handful of stories, the two together will quantum leap your influence.
It's critical that your audience believes in your story and that you allow them space to find their own story within it. It becomes much more contagious.
I think the audience can sense when there is something genuinely revealing or revelatory about a story. And if they sense that, and if you get that right, then I think people will tell their friends about it.
That's what makes storytelling in business so hard, because it requires that level of self-disclosure. So, and leaders are starting to learn to do that. But also, to your point, it's all about authenticity, and it's all about your audience. So often in business, we're stuck in creating messages that serve us, but don't necessarily connect with our audience.
Because I'd imagine the temptation of business is to say, well, I'm paying you to listen, and here's my story, and you will now react appropriately.
There's just been an evolution, I think, in business to say, it used to be about hard power, yell and tell. So if you've ever had a boss pull rank on you, or you've shouted at your kids, clean up your room or else, you've experienced hard power. Can I have a show of hands? How many of you like being told what to do? Nobody. So I think as leaders, as influencers, you always have to make the choice. So I'd say use hard power very, very sparingly, like in an emergency, when stuff's urgent. But if that's your default position, you're not going to be successful in business or as a leader, or you're not going to be successful long term. I always tell my clients it's about context, but beyond hard power and soft power, you have story power. Because story power can do both. It can inspire action and it can capture people's hearts.
I think that's a really critical part, is the inspiring action part, which is so important. It feels like, sitting in an innovation chair as I do, the brief we get is to change, is to help people change. And we use soft power sometimes to help people get out of stasis. In innovation, we use the storytelling of parallel worlds to gain some new perspective and some inspiration about how to solve a problem that we often feel too close to and too myopic about. A parallel world can help open up alternative solutions. It can be inspiring. It can also help us envision success to see how someone else has already solved a similar problem. We work with ASIC to try and do a step change in financial investment. It's pretty dry and it's pretty daunting, but we took them to see marriage counsellors, life coaches, dog trainer even, Narcotics Anonymous. We said these people have some rules and some methods for changing, and it's inspiring and it's quite soft. And then you do the hard one for us, which is you take them and you immerse them in experiences and they get that data point you talked about. Technology is rapidly evolving our ability to create interactive storytelling, whether that's in the use of social media like Twitter, which has permeated TV programming, or immersive technologies like virtual reality or 360-degree cameras that allow you to find multiple stories within the one shoot. Whatever happens, you've got to keep your stories updated.
In our business, the technology is becoming more available to everybody, but just because you can use an editing software or you can use a little camera, it doesn't mean that you are able to tell a story. The storytelling techniques still need to be learned, and they're probably more important than ever because the flood of information of bad stories out there.
I think you build a library of stories. You need to have a suite of stories, so you never become known as the person who only has the one story. So I think that's a challenge. So constantly you'll find as a result of today, your storytelling radar will go up. And I often just have I have a notebook where I write down stories. So stuff happens to you all the time. So if you write them down and you think, what could I use that for? What business purpose could I use that for? That's just a wonderful, wonderful place to be. And it's a skill that you constantly grow and develop.
So as Yamini said, start collecting your stories. How to impact. Storytelling is one of the most important tools we have in our whole armory. And I urge you to use storytelling to drive your own innovation and change agenda. Or better still, let us help you find them.